So, in part, this has to do with the FSH people that have problems with distension in their belly area for the lack of core muscles. But there are people with FSH like Zach who have flat bellies and have not had any distension. But I wanted to say, similar to what Ken was adding, is that these double compression belts give a kind of support to our core area that you notice the difference in stability and strength. So we met as a group in Knoxville, about 10 people, and there was a very young father, and he admitted to his wife, "This belt is great." He was trying on mine from ASMEC. He said, "I feel like I could pick up my child without dropping it." And the wife went, "What?" So, it can be worthwhile even for people that don't have the distension. But what my job here tonight is to relay how I've dealt with that distension over the years. And it was in the beginning, I was in clinical trials up in Rochester, and it was the physical therapist there that suggested you should look up double compression belts. They're all over the internet, not hard to find, lots available. Just remember, double compression is important. So they're not that expensive generally. So I tried many belts. And then by the time that blog that was written by my other ghostwriter, I've got one right here, that I had several to recommend. The one that I recommend the most from ASMEC in California, unfortunately, you do have to have some upper arm strength to pull the straps around, where there are others that are constructed with parachute strings, and it takes very, very little strength to pull that compression. So, but they're more bulky. They're, you know, you notice them more, but they have their function. So I still have a great selection of belts, but and I highly recommend those generally. But I've been looking for maybe 15 years for a different solution. And I think all of those years that I was wearing the compression belt may have affected the muscles that I implemented in the surgery. So I will talk more about that. But it took that long to find anybody willing to do a surgery, and then it should be covered by insurance. So there's an approach to it. So all of that succeeded. I got the surgery. It was very creative. It was by a young surgeon who both taught such reconstruction and also did research. So he was a perfect person. He wasn't aware of FSHD, but I explained it to him, and he did like most will say first, well, is this for vanity? Is this to have a flat stomach, which of course we would all like? But I said, no, there are very distinct reasons why we need that support that we've lost. You can have continued injury to your lower back due to the compensatory muscles, and you can't exercise. It takes longer to recuperate once you've been injured. And without any support whatsoever, that distension, all of your intestines go forward and down with each step. So there's pain involved too. So he said, got it. I have an idea. And he said, I think I can help, and it should be covered by insurance. And it was local right here in Knoxville, because I'd even gone and researching in Colombia, South America, kind of travel insurance, because this was going to be an expensive procedure. And I had been encouraged by several physicians that it should be covered by insurance. So that the last one said, I can't do it, but you should find somebody local to do it because you want to be close to where they're performing the surgery. So I found when I went for it, and I was getting to the age where either I do it now or it's just not going to be worth it. So once I explained what the FSH did to my core muscles, he had the idea of taking the side muscles, which are the external obliques, and bring them together, covering the core area and sewing them together with a piece of mesh down the center. And that would kind of substitute for an interior compression belt and kind of substitute for some core muscle strength. And so it was a great theory, and came out of surgery and my stomach was flat. It didn't last, but some of the distension has come back, but I definitely have core muscle strength. So there's more, I think there's more research to be done in the area. And maybe if I had done it 15 years earlier, before I had been wearing the belt continuously, maybe those external oblique muscles had not been as compromised or not used, because the belt was doing all of that. So the external obliques are not a very strong muscle to begin with compared to the abdominals, but I know they're working. I've got some core strength in there that I didn't have before, and the distensions come back about 45%, which is still very good for me. So I can go kind of through what the surgery involved, but there were many that encouraged it. There were physicians, they said they should be able to take care of that. They all thought it was a hernia to begin with, and then all agreed that it wasn't. So that kept me going. And a lot of surgeons will say that's cosmetic. You'll have to pay out of pocket. It'll be very expensive. And there are three ways of covering that abdominal area internally with surgery. What one woman with FSHD in California had done it 15 years earlier, they used stratus, which is medical pig skin. And that, she said, it lasted a very good long time and was very good, but now it's kind of giving way. The other is called, it's cadaver skin. I can't remember, asoderm or something like that. But mesh has come a long way. And in this particular surgery, it's never close to any organs, which was kind of the problems with mesh in some instances. So he said there would be no risk with the mesh in that sense of it ever getting close to an organ. Now, I don't know how many here in this group, do you know, Archer, that have actual distended bellies? I mean, Zach doesn't.
I don't know about other people, but I know that I do.
You do. So, I mean, you could consider this or a belt, you know. The thing was, uh, I, I didn't want to necessarily have to wear the belt all the time. And I only wear it now, not for the same need for support, but now I can look trim. And without it, I kind of look like just a middle-aged man or older man than that with a slight bulge. But how about you, Jesse? Do you have a distended belly?
Yes, and for core muscles, I can't even do an inch of a sit up.
Right. And to
Well,
try a
yeah.
sit up, which is they always say, okay, let us see what you can do. And that's when I hurt myself, is when I'm trying to do a sit up that I can't do. So that was wrong. Hey, James, do you have a distended belly? My name's Rick, by the way.
Oh, hey, Rick. It's Jamie, the guy we've talked on the phone once or twice.
Jamie, all right, you're
Yeah,
still
hey,
here.
great to
I
see you.
want you to meet
Yeah,
Ashley. Ashley's up above you. Jamie is the guy I've been talking to. First time I've seen him. This is
yeah,
great. I'm glad you're here.
yeah. But yeah, no, my belly is super distended with it sticking out the most right below the sternum. There's almost no fat there. I do have fat below my belly button, but I look 8 months pregnant almost, it seems like.
Well,
Maybe only
that's just
6.
it. Well, that's just it. The thing is that when I first found out about the compression belts, I went to one of the connects and we got into these big circles of patients, and there were very young women that looked pregnant. That's what the message they always got. Oh, you must be pregnant. It was just this distension, and that's really horrible. So it's nice to be with the young people's group, if that this is an issue, that there are ways to deal with it. what I was curious about before the surgery is I kept asking clinicians and people in the society, what is under this distension? I had no idea, and nobody was giving me any answers. So I asked my surgeon after the surgery, I said, well, what did you see? What did the abdominals look like? And he said, kind of yellow gray and deflated, where when you look at healthy muscle, it should be red and robust. And so when he opened me up, he could see that what he had suspected, that the external obliques were still healthy. He brought them together, used a small amount of mesh just to tie them together, and that has worked to a degree. But I'm happy. And then there are details about the surgery that we could go into that just, I'm happy with it. And it was covered by insurance, done by a local doctor. And I think they can improve upon it. But the other thing I asked him, I said, how about fat? And he said there was 0 fat under this tremendous distension. And I was very happy about that because I'd always been interested in my weight. I used to be a wrestler, not very good, but very much aware of my weight. So that he told me that there was 0 fat because he was ready for liposuction because it looked like we'll just take all that fat out of there. But he cut away 15 centimeters of loose skin and tied that thing up so it actually held those intestines in. And I may be having a little bit of the distension because those external obliques perhaps were not as strong or perhaps had weakened from use of the compression belts during all waking hours for 10 years. So that's the broad view of what the surgery is. And the belts can be, whether if you don't have upper arm strength, and the ones with the parachute strings work really well, and you feel the support. And if you're out in winter time, you don't notice that kind of a big belt on you. So we can open it up to questions about any specifics. Go ahead, Jess.
I'm just wondering, have you heard about any of this surgery in Canada at all?
Well, I only heard of this woman in Los Angeles. Then there's this other Zach, whose dad's a physician and has all these friends. We tried to communicate with him, but it was through a friend, and he evidently was not interested in sharing. So I have no idea how that went. Most of my family's up in Canada, and I haven't heard about it, but I think it's kind of novel. This guy, because he did research and taught, he creatively imagined a way of doing it. Because I went to another doctor years before who had treated a friend who had been in a car accident and had his whole abdominal area destroyed. And he put mesh over the entire abdominal area and had no problems with it. Years later, when I went to him, that's the one that said, his nurse's aide said, try and do a sit-up. I paid for that for weeks, but he never said yes or no. That was a problem. For months, I kept asking, well, have you decided whether you're going to do it? And he just wouldn't answer. So I just kept waiting. So in Canada, I had to investigate through 3 surgeons in this 1 year that I approached this one guy and had to explain it. And each one got it. The first one was a trauma surgeon. He said, well, we just split you up the middle because they do that out in the field. And that wouldn't be the best answer. Then I went to another one, and she said, no, I wouldn't be doing that kind of a surgery, but there's a new guy coming in, and that's probably what he would do. What I did find out was, and I never really understood, it just sounded right, was getting a tummy tuck. And I thought, well, that sounds right. And the neurologists would all say, no, that's not an answer, but they wouldn't explain why. And then I learned that tummy tucks are really for women who have gone through pregnancy and in that distension of the belly, it has pulled those core abdominals apart. And the tummy tuck is to pull them back together and tie them and flatten that area again. But their core muscles are strong. So it's just a reestablishing of the abdominal area, and then they're fine. So you could have a tummy tuck for us, but it wouldn't make really any difference.
Hey, Rick, what was the specialty that your surgeon typically worked in?
Well, and that's why you got to kind of address it a particular way. He is a cosmetic surgeon and does other kinds of surgery, and we always referred to this as abdominal reconstruction, which sounds a lot better for
So he's
insurance.
cosmetic reconstructive surgery.
Well, we never applied cosmetic.
But I mean, he's cosmetic / reconstructive surgery because I would think whether they're doing it for someone's vanity or doing it because they were in an accident, and that's the type of stuff he does.
Right. So
Okay.
his card will say cosmetic surgeon.
Mhm.
When you go to insurance, you don't ever bring that up.
No.
But the advantage to that is different from the trauma surgeon. When this guy performed the surgery, he did a incision from the top of one hip to the other, which would still be below a bathing suit line, and that's a cosmetic surgeon's approach.
Right.
Where
No, I'm just wondering if I go through with this, because we talked, what, about a year and a half ago, we met in Denver, and I've been tossing the idea around for a while. It's not something you rush into, but I was just wondering what specialty doctor would you look for? And it sounds like it's going to be kind of hit and miss as far as whether the doctor will actually, even though they do the type of surgery, whether that doctor would do that specific surgery.
Well, there's a guy in Los Angeles that knows how to do it, but he won't get insurance to cover it. And it's by the woman that did it. And when
Right.
I contacted the surgeon down in Colombia, he said, I studied under that doctor, but he still didn't know how to even approach it. So it took the creativity of this young researcher and teacher to come up with this new idea. And nobody had heard about it. I mentioned it to my neurologist in Kansas City, Dr. Statlin. He said, that's a very good idea and novel and creative. And he said, but I can't guarantee that your external obliques won't someday also become affected with the disease. So we don't know. But I went through 3 surgeons in one hospital before I got to the one that would finally do it. But in each time I learned a little bit more how better to present myself and explain the issues that were not for vanity.
Right.
So,
Remember you telling me.
but that, yeah, you could get it done by that Los Angeles doctor.
Well,
And
I know
they don't use the Stratus anymore.
they just need to, well, you need a little bit of background in how insurances pay. You just need the doctor's office to code it properly. And that's how the insurance companies work. They insure by, like, there's some codes they will do, some codes they won't cover, and you gotta get real tight and like take the doctor out to dinner or something and schmooze them in order to get this done.
Well, he was excited about it. He was a young doctor that did research. I mean, it was using his creative potential that he was excited about it and understood it. And he said, I would go to bat for you with the insurance companies should they not give you the okay. So that's important too, because many of the surgeons will, and especially if you go strictly to a cosmetic surgeon, they're going to say not covered. So, and codes can be different from one doctor to hospital to insurance. I've had that problem before where they say we're not using the same codes. So, but that's part of the process. Go ahead, Jamie.
I was going to say, if I can interrupt. So I actually was at the Mayo Clinic for 20 days this past May into June to help with getting a diagnosis as it affects my breathing greatly. And when they did a muscle biopsy of my bicep, the group that actually did that, and I had my wife Google it, so I'm reading off of her phone. Mayo Clinic Rochester offers specialized abdominal wall reconstruction procedures for complex hernias and other conditions affecting the abdominal wall. Their division of metabolic and abdominal wall reconstructing surgery is staffed by experienced blah, blah, blah. I think it's called MALS, the Metabolic and Abdominal Wall Reconstructive Surgery. So maybe that's, I'm not good with acronyms, MAWRS. But I
MAWR.
found it interesting that the Mayo had such a group because I kind of didn't know, beyond thoracic surgeons, I didn't really realize, beyond being born with a thoracic deformity, such as like, when your sternum's inset or something as such. I didn't really realize there was need for something like this. So you could always try them. Sometimes they have a waiting list, but that's for their neurological department. This group may welcome you with open arms. You just never know. So
No, that sounds good. I would have gone to them had I not run into this doctor. I mean, from just your explanation, it sounds like a perfect center to better do it, because I'm sure there are many different approaches in how to do abdominal wall reconstruction. Like for my friend, I think this doctor covered the entire abdominal area with mesh, where mine tried to implement functioning muscles and a small amount of mesh. The mesh is very expensive, so that was part of the deal.
Jesse, could you repeat the acronym for that treatment, that procedure?
yeah, I walked away because my phone was about to die. But Sam, can you walk your phone in again? It was the Metabolic and Abdominal Wall Reconstructive Surgery, maybe division within the Mayo Clinic. I think I got that right because
Well, it shouldn't be hard to research. Just going to
Yeah.
the Mayo.
Yeah, and the Mayo Clinic's all over the country.
Yeah, the division of metabolic and
Nursery.
abdominal wall reconstructive surgery. Because I had actually asked, I said, gee, could I have a consultation? I know you're
Yeah.
going to talk to me about my bicep. And they said, well, that's a different surgeon. And the people who do this, it's, the what do you call it? The biopsy people just happen to be under this group. So, I would have ended up having to wait another week or two, and I had already been there a long time. But that's out of Rochester, Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, I know their neurology has a long waiting list, but again, sometimes their, certain departments are readily available, depending on, if they, once you get approval and all that good stuff, they make you jump through 6 hoops and then you're good to go. So
It doesn't have to ask.
Well,
yeah,
you got a question, Jesse?
Yeah, so this is my dad, Blaine Reed, and he just wanted to ask you about one of the subjects you talked about.
And actually, before I get to you, Rick, and James, that was Rochester in Minnesota?
yes, sir. The Minnesota, yeah,
Mayo
because
Clinic?
Rick had actually shared with me Rochester, New York, is the center of excellence for FSH. I found that interesting. So.
Yeah, and that's exactly because I just assumed it was New York.
Yeah.
Okay,
Put in, I'm sorry, I did want to share, I did put in the chat a link to this with the information, so you'll have that there with Rochester, Minnesota and all that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And again, Rick, it was you were talking about the double compression belt, and was it ASMEC was the name of it?
There was a blog put on the society that talks all about the double compression belts, including the link to one that I highly recommended, which was a group in near Los Angeles called ASMEC, AZMEC, with a particular contact who's well aware of our situation, and we had a belt designed for our needs, and his name is Oscar Martinez.
Rick,
And
I have
he's
his
still
phone.
there.
I have his phone number. If everyone wants it, I could read it off.
And it's in the blog.
Yeah.
Oh, is it in the blog? Okay, yeah, he's in Laguna Hills, and it's AZMECINC.com.
ADMIC.
MEC.
AZME as in Edward, CINC.com. And you want to speak to Oscar.
AZMEC.
MEC. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
ASMEC. And then Inc. is what he's adding.
Or
Okay.
I have.
ASMECinc.com.
Apple, Zebra, Mary, Edward, Charles, Indian Nation, Charles.
Very-
.com.
At me.com.
But it's in that blog. You can look it up too there, and they'd have those references. But definitely talk to Oscar because he understands.
And
Oscar
his last name
Martinez.
again was
Martinez.
Martinez. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And what is his phone number? Because I often do the phone versus email. I'm kind of I'm just old enough.
Okay.
Well, don't do
That's what you guys
don't
did on
try
my
to
dad.
find the belts on their website because this is specially designed belt for our situation. So talking to him directly is best. Hi, Ian.
Okay. And you have his phone number?
I do. It's the office number is 951
951
582
582
0153 and
015.
and that's Pacific time.
Okay, 0153, and that's Pacific time. Okay.
And good luck. And you can mention my name because he knows me very well, but now he's aware of FSH too. So
Well,
Okay.
the way I identified with the belt, I said, "You made it for Rick Whitehead." He goes, "Oh yeah, now I know."
yeah, it's been we've been doing it for like 10 years. So I'm very happy
Okay.
with him and that product. There's a lot of advantages to it particularly, but you do need the upper arm strength to pull the compressions together. And so they've added loops, which, for those that need them, but even still, it may be, you need a lot of strength to do that. So I recommend the belts that have parachute strings, and you could pull that with 2 fingers. So
Rick, I have someone put it on for me, and it works very well that way if you have a person who could help you. The other thing I did is the original one had loops that kind of stuck out so you could see him under the clothing. I had Oscar, no, he didn't cut him, he flattened
I
them.
cut them off.
Well, now they're flat, they don't stick out. I had Oscar
Good.
redesign it, and so ask him for the flat loops.
Oh, that's good. The loops help, but
Yeah, they
don't
do.
stick out.
They give you something to, especially if you're doing it by yourself.
Right, and it's best to lie down when you're putting such a belt on because for many of us, the belly all the intestines go back to flat. So there are people here from the young people's group. We've got a lot of visitors. So if you guys have any questions, please ask. This is our chance.
I actually, I have a question for you, Rick. Kind of a personal question. I hope you don't mind.
Absolutely, Archer. To you,
I'm just curious, sort of like what your level of progression was, and if you had like any breathing weakness or anything, just because I know that affects like risk of surgery and things like that.
I had the breathing issues before the surgery, and they've deemed it dyspnea. There's a silent P in there, and it's getting worse. But it was not an effect of the surgery. But what has been explained to me by Dr. Statlin in Kansas City says, just for insight, not really for any solution, it's the cough muscles that are affected that is causing this these breathing issues.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know like different surgeons have different level of comfort based on like this is just in my experience. Like as I've gotten more severe, my surgeons have gotten sort of more cautious with surgery. So I was just sort of curious like where you were when you got your surgery because yeah.
He was concerned, the surgeon was concerned that I might have bowel issues because all of a sudden this area is tight. And it was flat and it was tight. But the thing was, because I'd been wearing the compression belts all of these years, it was already tight. So that was not a new situation for me, and I didn't have any issues with my bowels. So it was the effects of the surgery were secondary effects to the surgery were non-evident.
Yeah, this is actually really interesting to me because I have been in my wheelchair. I turned a chest strap into like an abdominal strap because like my stomach is like very distended, and that pulls on my back, which has weak muscles supporting my spine, which makes my lordosis worse, which just causes a lot of pain. So it would be really interesting to maybe have to avoid all those extra like support straps all the time that are very restrictive and things like that. So especially for other reasons too. And so yeah, this has just been really interesting. So thank you.
Well, I'm thinking that the parachute string kind of belt would work really well for you because you could put it on and it would feel good. I mean, it does feel good. It's kind of bulky, but the thing is, it requires very little strength to get it as tight as you want and loosen it at the same time. So I think I have several of those belts that I use for different occasions. So
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I know I have a feeding tube and a catheter, so wearing like different sort of compression belts gets really difficult sometimes, which is another reason that the surgery seems really interesting to me because like again, like it's been a problem trying to find a good like sort of compression to hold everything. It's just kind of hard to manage everything, but
I think it is very individual too. But you'll know best. And I've gotten help, but it was not direct help. It was a lot of investigation, but it's a kind of a sharing thing in this kind of environment that we can ask and kind of throw ideas out there. I'm really glad to get to know you, Archer, after that summit. You're wonderful.
I appreciate
Jamie,
that.
glad you're here
Good to
too.
get to know you too.
Thank you, Archer. So Dan or James Rice, if you guys want to get involved at all, you're just welcome to stay in the background. Ian, if you got any questions, but it's good to see you. Zach is in his car. He's listening in.
Yeah, one question though. You had the belt for a long time. What led you to decide it was time to pursue a surgery? What was the key thought process there?
Well, first of all, many physicians were saying you should be able to somehow get that resolved without having to use the compression belts. But my concept was thinking that there was some way to create an interior compression belt. So bringing the external obliques was substituting the need for an exterior compression belt. And to a degree that worked. And maybe for other people younger and maybe in the earlier stages of their distension, those external obliques would be stronger and could develop more. I try to develop those external obliques, but they're not essentially strong muscles. They're wide and thin, where the core muscles are much thicker and stronger, but not for us or me.
So is it more so than trying to avoid the daily hassle of the belt instead of expecting the internal belt alternative to be more effective?
Well, the concept was that I wouldn't have to wear the belt, but I'd have a flat stomach and no injuries. And, I would wake up and put my belt on and wear it all day and just not wear it at night. So that's a bit of a hassle. And I had a bunch of different ones. They can be hot, uncomfortable, or bulky, but the idea that it was physicians that were giving me the idea that some kind of surgery should be able to take care of it. And many people talked about mesh and this site at the Rochester in Minnesota, the Mayo, that there's a whole department dedicated to abdominal reconstruction. They should be approached with our concerns and see if they could come up with some ideas, because the guy that I went to after the accident, his doctor, he was kind of inferring how he'd be attaching the mesh to different areas all around the abdominal area, which may have worked better in my case, not relying on the abdominals, but I like the idea of using the abdominal, the external obliques
Hey,
more than
Zach,
just all mesh.
Zach, this is Ken. You look, when I saw your face flash up, you look to be on the younger side of the group here.
27.
Okay, so my distension, I wasn't diagnosed with FSHD until about 4 years ago. I'm currently 69. And my distension really didn't start until, oops, I'm muted.
You're
We
good.
can hear you now. You
Yeah.
broke up for a second.
Sorry, my distension really didn't start until I was about, well, it started very, very slightly in my 20s, but really wasn't noticeable until like 40s, 50s. And I think because of the amount of time and the distension, it's put strain and pressure on my back and caused stenosis and spinal problems. So for you at 27, either the belt or the surgery could probably help you avoid back problems in your later years.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Definitely something I'll be considering over time. And I also want to ask Rick, so with the mesh, I know with the hernias, people will use mesh to patch them, but sometimes even with that, like the intestines or whatever can still get through the mesh. So I would think if you've got the mesh having to like hold the muscles together and those muscles have the strain of supporting your abdominals overall, that just seems like a lot of risk that the mesh could have been something that got stretched or broken. Any thoughts on that?
Well, it was the surgeon that gave me confidence that that would not be an issue. In a rare case that for some reason the mesh, he was more concerned that the body could reject the mesh, which can be a problem. But that go back in there and do it again. But the one guy that had his whole abdominal area covered with mesh said it was great for him. So I think when I first started investigating things about mesh, there were lots of questions, but all of the surgeons that I talked to within these last few years were much more confident of its application. So I wasn't concerned about the problems that have revolved around the use of mesh, to answer your question. It's very interesting that Ken was advocating for a belt, and I just reiterate that it was one of our guys down here who has your same body build, look very good shape, but he couldn't pick up his child without the fear of dropping it until he put the belt on, which I thought was pretty interesting because many of us don't have the distension. So I really was only applying the compression belt for the sense of distension, but it actually can give you support should you need it.
Rick, just one quick little thing since you mentioned that. The belts I have steel, flat steel rods in the back, 4 of them. So that helps, but also just FYI when you go through TSA at the airport.
Yeah,
I did that. I learned the hard way.
They're called metal stays.
Yeah.
And actually I have belts for going through TSA because the metal sets it off. And I used to go, I said, look, I've got a belt for my muscular dystrophy. It's got metal stays in it. So they take me into a separate room and they've got to check for explosives. But I stopped doing that. That was another advantage not getting the surgeries. I don't have to wear an abdominal belt going through TSA because they will stop you and it's no fun. But there are belts that don't have metal stays that still give you some support, but most of the belts do. And you try to find belts that won't fold in the front when you bend over forward. A lot of them tend to squeeze together, and then you get this kind of pinch into your abdominal area. So we've created the metal stays to try to keep this area can go back to its flatness for the support. So I advocate investigating all kinds of belts because they're not that expensive, and then you can refine your investigation over time. And that's what we did with Oscar at ASMEC for one style belt.
Right. He makes a couple of lengths now, by the way. He's branched out.
Lengths?
Oh, length top to bottom.
Yes, yeah. The ones that I started with him were either 10-inch or 12-inch, and I'm 5'9", so the 12-inch, covered a very large area, and then I felt that the 10-inch was better, but they're different styles, and just keep trying them, and Oscar will work with you, but a lot of the belts are more like 10 inches, but I think there are belts out there that are taller, cover more of the abdominal area, and you just keep trying different ones.
So I had a quick question. My the physical therapist at the Mayo had recommended that I start wearing some type of abdominal belt for support, but I do have confirmed atrophy in my lower spine. And so I worry that if I were to wear the belt, that it might, allow my back to rest more and thus cause further progression of the atrophy. I mean, obviously I'm a layman, so it's maybe that's not the way it all works, but that was one of my concerns. And I guess the second question was, did it cause any rib pain? I have significant pain under my left rib. And so that was one of the reasons when we first talked that I was slightly hesitant to investigate it further because, the pain's going on now. It's got severe by 1999, and by 2012, I started using medication. So,
Well, a lot of the doctors say, oh, you don't want to use a belt. It'll weaken your muscles. But they're talking about normal people that don't have diseased muscles. So, but to back up a little bit is that I think using my compression belts for so many years it allowed those external obliques probably to weaken a little bit. And it's taking more effort to bring them up to snuff again after so many years of disuse. So it's a little bit of trial and error, but I don't accept that blanket statement from doctors who apply it to everybody generally when we have a very particular situation with diseased muscles. So it's not the same affair, but you would just have to try it, James. But I think under the attention of one of your better doctors, whether it's the neurologist or the physical therapist or whoever, to say, what do you think's happening with my back now that I'm wearing this double compression? But if, there's no recuperation to my core abdominal muscles. There's no reactivation of those guys at all. So I'm not weakening anything in that area. But maybe one of these clinical trials will bring things back to a new light. So are any of the young people in the group, are any of you in any of the clinical trials? There's Avidity and EpiCRISPR, the two big ones, and Fulcrum was before. I was in the Fulcrum before.
Not sure whether people are supposed to answer that they are, but I'm not.
You've never been in any of the clinical trials?
No, I don't have, my lower body is not affected, and so I don't qualify.
You don't qualify. Well, that's the thing with Avidity is they reject a 55% rejection rate for them, but it's got really good promise. And Heloise got rejected of all people. Isn't she a member of this group?
She used to host a different one that was very similar. And she said she might get involved in the future, but not at this point.
Well, I thought it was terrible. She got rejected.
Have you heard anything about the Arrowhead trials?
I've heard about them, but I don't have knowledge. Our present FSH Society person, Ashley, would know.
You would
Arrowhead?
think she would know.
a
I
familiar
don't have a
name.
lot of information on that. I know that they are moving forward. I think that there was just a little bit of conversation with who they were bought out by. I can definitely get you more information though.
Good
Oh,
person to
I know
Ashley.
that they're getting set up here in Calgary.
Oh, Calgary,
And
that's where you are.
Okay.
yeah,
You got a good
and
group there in Calgary.
pardon me?
You've got a good group with FSH in Calgary. It's
Yeah,
a
they're
father and
wonderful.
2 daughters.
Yeah, so it's Neil Camarda and his son and his daughters Karen and Jennifer. Yeah,
Good people.
yeah, they're wonderful.
I'm going to Harrison Hot Springs next June for my family reunion, and it's my cousin who's turned 90 next year. It lives in Calgary,
Oh, okay.
but we're going over to BC for the
Yeah.
celebration. Half Canadian.
So how much you were talking about these belts, ballpark, how much are they, just out of nothing but sheer curiosity?
Well, over the years, they range between 30 and 50 bucks, mostly on
Oh.
Amazon.
Well,
The ones from ASMEC were like 55 or 60 or change,
Oh,
but the parachute string ones I bought from a company called Relax Your Back, and that was very expensive. I got it when it was on sale, so it was like $140. But it was a very specific use for that belt, and I still have several of those. And I like them because, well, first of all, it's a rigid compression. So once you pull it to a certain compression, it stays that way. It won't move. So if you bend over, it's that much more stress. Where the ASMEC belt has a little bit of give to it, and it
flexible.
breathes. So I find it's more versatile, but they all have their applications.
The last one I
Okay.
got from Oscar was $60 US.
wow. I just thought they would be quite a bit more than that. That's good.
And he shipped for free. I don't know if he'll ship to Canada for free, but his place is only about 2 hours from where I live. So,
He didn't
Okay.
give me free shipping.
well, you broke him in for me, Rick.
Good, good, good. Well, we're on good path. He knows our community pretty well, so. I'm trying to get anybody that's here present that I don't know. It's just that Zach's listening in. But if you want to ask anything in particular, please do. This is your chance. Jesse, you getting to ask another question?
Oh no, I was just wiping my face. Yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. So
I tried to ask one earlier and I don't know if it got through because I got disconnected, but with the mesh, you said that's how they kind of connected the obliques. That sounds like a lot of kind of tension on the mesh, whereas mesh can get penetrated just by like hernia repairs over time.
yeah, I'm
So
sorry you cut out. I did kind of answer that, but
Okay.
mesh has come along so far after the last 15 years that all of my surgeons, the 3 that I talked to, were completely confident that those kinds of issues with the mesh have been handled. One was for being close to organs, and in this case, never close to an organ. And he was confident that this would not come apart through any stress over the years. But that's believing him, and it's a new thing. So, I can't say, 100% sure. And it could be a concern, but they're approaching it so that or this surgeon was, so that it doesn't fail.
And you're happy with this? You're happy with the surgery, but it sounds like it's not 100% like where it started. Would you potentially look at doing another type in the future, or have you looked into that?
No, I would not do another one because I'm getting older, but I felt like I had to do it before I got where I could still take advantage of it, and I am. it's successful enough for me that I'm very happy that I did it. But I can imagine that the more research is done, and maybe this department up at the Mayo is probably a great place to investigate such things. But earlier in life, earlier in the experience with FSH, earlier in the distension, there might be other ways or approaches that could be considered. This was just one, and it was novel, and I thought it was very creative, and it's been successful to a degree. But when I came out of surgery, I had a flat stomach, which was pretty incredible for about a month.
So just a question with that mesh. I know you said it was quite expensive, right? And obviously I would have to travel to the States. So what kind of cost would you be talking about, you think?
Well, I don't know that you'd have to go to the States. I'll bet they've got
Or
places.
let's just say I don't even have to go. Let's just say the procedure.
Well, he explained to me that a piece of mesh that's like that, and that's probably what's on my abdomen. What's that? Like looks like 3 inches to 6 or 7. Said that's $7,000. Medical mesh is very expensive, but in Canada it may not be.
Okay, yeah, no,
Good thing
perfect,
in
thank you.
Canada, you guys got a good deal out there. You have to wait a long time, but
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I
thank
swear
you.
that group that you've got in Calgary, I'm very impressed with. I snuck into one of your webinars and saw that family, and they were wonderful. But the involvement there is fantastic. So
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm not saying anything, giving opportunity for people to speak up if they want to. I'm really glad you came, Jamie. It's good to see you. And
Yeah,
Ken, I'm glad you heard
yeah,
about
it's very good to see you too. Trust me. I'm surprised we never video chatted prior to this. So
Well, we can do that.
yeah,
Now
yeah, yeah,
we know each
yeah,
other.
yeah, exactly.
But that you all know Ashley now is really important. Ashley is our champion.
I
Yeah.
will definitely do what I can to advocate for you all. Yes, but he gives me much more kudos than I deserve. He is really the awesome one behind the scenes here.
Well, Zach's pretty cool too. Thank you, Zach, for asking me to come and share. And I hope it was beneficial to people that were here. And I'm really glad, Ken, that I don't know how you found out about it.
It was a email blast for FSHD webinars.
Oh, really? As a general
Yeah.
thing. Okay.
It went out to everybody.
This is an exclusive group of young people.
Not as exclusive as you thought.
Now, we got a dad right here.
Awesome.
I'm a
So
dad.
you're still driving, Zach?
Yeah, I've got another 30, 40 minutes.
Well, thanks for being there and listening in. That's I know that's tricky while you're driving. Did you want to make any kind of conclusion to the hour?
Yeah, and I really appreciate you taking the time as well and speaking to everybody about your experience and everybody else for joining to ask questions. We do this type of meeting third Monday of each month, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern.
Limited to what age, Zach? Do you know, Ashley? 3 candles?
Candles. Well, I don't know if Zach's on mute. I definitely don't want to take it away, but young adults, I think that we typically go between the 20 to about 30 age range. Of course, if we're flexible with that, and depending on the topic, we open it up sometimes to older individuals, which is totally fine.
Well, more mature.
More mature. I like that.
Ken
Wiser.
and I are maybe a little more mature.
I don't know about mature, but I'm old. Yeah, exactly. Oh, my last question. You mentioned that the breathing had to do with the cough muscles, and my cough muscles have been greatly affected over the past 6 months, but my maximum inspiratory and expiratory power are at 28 and 29% respectively. So they did a nerve conduction on my diaphragm, and my diaphragm had low amplitude, short duration, whatever the fancy terms are for affected, with via denervation atrophy. So do you think the belt would, I mean, I could always buy one and find out myself, but do you think the belt would hamper breathing in any which way, or is it just a matter of, um,
I don't think wearing a belt makes breathing easier.
No.
The dyspnea that I've got is difficulty breathing upon exertion. So if I'm walking flat with just a normal, I'm not trying to run or anything, I don't have any problems. But the second I start going uphill, that effort, I lose my effort. I lose my breathing ability. But they tested my lungs, my heart, my diaphragms. They're all fine. And then there's breathing, that you force into the tube and suck it out. But that's not specific to cough muscles. There are, at your pulmonologist, they have ways of testing specifically the cough muscles. But I've talked to 2 pulmonologists here locally in Knoxville, and they don't have them. But Dr. Statlin's the one that told me about it, and they've got them there in Kansas City. So they exist, but it wouldn't offer a solution, just some insight as to why we experience the shortness of breath. I'm probably not alone, but I don't hear a lot of other people complaining about shortness of breath. There's low breathing at night for sleeping, shallow breathing. So that's a whole nother topic.
So
Yes.
I get shortness of breath if I do like uphill things, like walking uphill, but I've done those breathing tests and I'm at 99%.
So it's the cough muscle.
Yeah.
And
No, I have no other problems. Like it's fine.
yeah,
Like I
well,
don't feel with the cough.
did they call it dyspnea? DYSPNA?
I'm not sure. I'll have to double check with that.
Well,
But
I only learned about it because they told me and I had to figure out how to spell it and pronounce it. But I do, and it was about it manifested about 2 years ago, and then stayed about that way for 2 years. Now it's getting a little worse. I'm more sensitive to running out of breath, shortness.
okay, just curious.
But all my cousins, all my family up there in Canada, all they want to do is hike up the mountains. I can't do that anymore. My mom's from Jasper. She was born in Jasper.
Oh, is she still there?
No, well, she's actually there, but she's on the other side of the grass.
Oh, okay. Sorry to hear that.
But I went up there every other summer all through my youth, so it was wonderful. We have no more family there, and that they all left before the fire.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to mention. It roared through there last year.
Yeah, but the cemetery is on the other side of town, so that's where I've got a lot of family members.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think Zach has left the stage, and he's our main guy. I'll give you all last chance, but thank you so much for being here, including some of our special guests. It's great.
The only thing I would ask is, I don't know, Ashley, if I could try to reach out to you. Rick had mentioned there was a meet and greet in Bristol, Connecticut, and I may have already missed the dates as I was on vacation, or it might actually be at the end of August. I feel like my brain is going along with my body, but
No
I didn't know
problem.
if pardon me?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I wonder if you're referring to the picnic that Kathy that was
Is.
hosted in Connecticut.
It
Yeah.
already happened. It was like August 8 or 9.
It was early in the month. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was away up in Maine that week. So maybe that's
Well, there'll be
That's-
more opportunities, and I certainly let her know of your interest. So she'll be standing by, and she's aware of you. So that
Yeah,
could
just
happen.
I've had trouble finding the correct people's email. You know,
I'll make sure that we get you in touch with them. Don't worry, James. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list right now.
Yeah,
So we can
yeah,
get
it's,
that taken care of.
yeah, it's
She's the
James.
winner.
Yeah, James P. Spielman@gmail.com.
Perfect.
I don't check it often enough. I go by Jamie, but James is my birthright and all these good things. So,
Sounds
well,
good
thank
to
you,
me.
Miss Ashley. I appreciate that. Thanks
Of
to
course.
everyone. It's so nice to see actual faces. It's been a long time coming. Trust me. So,
Yeah, it was good to see your face too. We'll do FaceTime next time we talk.
Good to see you, Rick.
Good to see you, Jamie. You look good.
thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. It's
Nice to
really
meet
nice
everybody.
meeting you. I'm not allowed really into the young people's group,
Thanks, Rick. Thank you
but
very much.
I've been lucky enough to meet Archer, and I know Zach from before, but everybody else, it's really nice to meet you guys from Calgary. Glad you participated, and the other people that came. I hope it helped you out in some aspect, because I know this doesn't pertain to everybody with FSH, but that was the design for tonight's talk.
Thank
No,
you,
it's
everyone. We appreciate you. Yeah.
great and informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.